Okay, we're going to start out here with some trigonometry. And the main thing with trigonometry is we've got to know our definitions for starting. Because when we talk about different things in trigonometry, if we don't know what we each are referring to, it's going to be a problem. So let's get through some basics here. Angle. You know, we talked about an angle in geometry. So let's just show an angle. First of all, I'm just going to do what's called a ray. I'm going to have a end of my ray, and I'm going to show you which way it's going. There it is. And then I'm going to go ahead and from that one I'm going to draw another ray, and then we can go like that. And if we really wanted to, we could then go ahead and try to measure this. We could measure this angle, and what I would do is I would make sure I put the baseline of my protractor here right on one ray, and then look at where it's pointing, and wow, that one's pointing right at 50 degrees. So I would read this from 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and if I want to be real accurate, I got to go to these little numbers on the outside, and don't be confused, that one reads 130, but I would say, for example, use these little numbers to figure that it was maybe 51 or 52 degrees, but that one's right on 50 degrees. So normally in geometry you would measure this and then you would label it 50 degrees. But in trigonometry we're going to be using a lot of different ways to measure angles, both using degrees and something new that we're going to talk about in a little bit. So let's go ahead and then talk about angles parts now. We have what's called an initial side and a terminal side. And we really don't have a set way of what we could call the starting and terminal, but most of the times in trigonometry, we are going to do a ray that is going to point directly to the right as our starting ray. Okay, so that will be typically what I'll do. So I'll refer to this one as my starting. That's my starting ray. And from the starting ray, we then will put another ray. Well, let's put this ray out here. We're just going to stick a ray out here, and that's going to be now my terminal. So that's the starting ray, and here's my terminal ray. So wait a second, hold on, terminal ray. Well, could that be my starting ray? It could be, but typically we'll do in trig, we'll have the starting ray going to the right. Okay, so now we might measure that one. Let's go ahead, let's just kind of, I'm curious what that one's measured to be. So if we throw our protractor here and we look straight down on it, that one came out to be right at 135 degrees. So we could say 135 degrees. Well, that was what we did in geometry. We measured usually between 0 and 180. But in trigonometry, we are learning that we're going to measure in the positive direction. We're always going to go in this way, which is counterclockwise. That is positive. So if we measured and built an angle that was 135 degrees positive, and that was the starting ray and that's the terminal ray, we could also find, since we know a circle makes up 360 degrees, well, let's see, how many degrees would it be if we went the other way? Well, if we go that way, which is clockwise on the clock, that's in the negative direction. So we know that the whole thing is 360. So to find what this angle would be if we measured it in the negative way, we would have to say, well, wait a second. I know the whole thing's 360. So I'm going to take 360 minus 135, and I'll get another number that's 225, and that's 225. So that means this angle, if I went clockwise, could also be called negative 225 degrees. Okay, so that's the difference. That's what the starting ray is. Some people call this, we'll call this the initial side. Okay, and then that's the terminal side. So that's what we're going to call when we make a ray. Okay, what else do we want to talk about? Well, what is a vertex? A vertex is where we have two rays that they come together at a common point there where the endpoints of the rays start from, and that would be called our vertex. So we want to make sure we remember that's our vertex. So anytime we talk about a vertex, we will have that. Okay, so what did we do so far? We talked about positive angles. Positive angles go counterclockwise. Negative angles are measured clockwise. Okay, we've got that. And then we talked about the initial side. Okay, and we talked about the terminal side. Okay, now let's go ahead and talk about what coterminal means. Okay, so let's just turn this upside down now. We'll put that other scrap there and we'll use a piece of paper. And let's say what we want to say is a coterminal angle. So we're going to draw this first ray in what we formally call horizontal to the right and what's called standard position. Okay, horizontal to the right is like on the positive x-axis. So if we were to superimpose x and y here, that would be going positive x. Now I can measure an angle, let's just say this angle here, and I think this angle is going to be pretty close to 60 degrees. So let's measure it. Let's measure it to see how close I was. Okay, it was only, I didn't quite make it to 60. I only made it to 57 degrees. 57 degrees, and you know something, really it's a lot colder now. It's in the 20s, but we've got a 57 degree angle. So I wish it was as warm as our angle. Now, could that be an angle that instead of just drawing it one time or going right to it in a counterclockwise or positive direction, what if I started out with this thing like being a minute hand on a clock and I just kept winding it around and I went past the starting position? So pretend it would be, I've got like a little wire here, okay? So here's my little wire. I started out at the standard position and then tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, keeps going around, keeps going around, keeps going around. Okay, it's that far, so it's going to keep going, it's going to keep going, and it's over there, and it's still going, and then it stops over there. Then it stops over there. So really, how many degrees did it go? Well, it went 360 first, and then it went 57 more. So we could say, wait a second, 360 plus 57 more, 7, 1, and that would be 4. That could also be, or that might have been a 417 degree angle. That would work, wouldn't it? Could we go another 360? Could it be a, how about 360 more? Let's take 360. 7, I hope I don't make a mistake adding here. 7, 7, 77. 7, 7, 7, 7. Okay, it could have gone 7 or 777 degrees. It could have been that way. But what if the things start going out in the other way? Well, if that's the case, we would have had to first figure out 360 minus 57 to figure out if I measured it this other way. So it could have been, then let's subtract here, 303. It could have been a negative 303 degree angle, or it could have been also a 663 degree angle, 663 degree angle. These angles, all 5 of these angles are called co-terminal. No, they're not. They're not sick or anything like that. They're co-terminal angles. Okay, let's remember this is an R here. Co-terminal. I get so excited when I write sometimes. So that's co-terminal. So that's what we mean by co-terminal. So we've got. Let's review our basics so far. Okay, let's go back to the first sheet. Okay, what do we have for the first sheet? We had vertex, right, where the 2 rays start out from, and they emanate from the vertex. One goes this way and one goes that way. Then what else did we start? We had with the initial side of an angle, and then we call the terminal side of an angle. That's like the start and the end. Okay, terminal is like the end as well. We talked about that we could measure an angle counterclockwise is positive, so that was 135 degrees if I measured that one positive. And then we also knew that we could measure in the negative direction. So if we went positive or counterclockwise, counterclockwise is positive, counterclockwise is positive, and now clockwise is negative. Clockwise is negative with angles. Okay, we got that? Let's go review this one more time. Okay, what did we say? We had coterminal. If here we have, what is this called? This, when we put the angle in this position, that's called the standard position. Okay, standard position. Okay, got it? So what was the big words we needed to remember now? Okay, we had to talk about positive angles, negative angles. Positive is counterclockwise, and negative is clockwise. Sometimes I mess those up, so I got to remember. Positive is counterclockwise. Negative is clockwise. We talked about standard position, and that means we put it looking like the x-axis, positive. That's standard position. We've talked about the initial side and the terminal side, and that's pretty much that. Okay, let's finish this up with a couple last things here. That each circle Okay, each circle we knew from geometry has 360 degrees. Okay, so remember, a circle has 360 degrees that make up a circle. So two circles, if I went round and around, like if I took this one, I went round one way, round another, that would have 720 degrees. And if I went again, it would have what? 720 plus 360? Well, I don't remember that all the time. I need to practice. 720 plus 360 is 1080. 1080. Now, how do we remember those angles? Okay, we're going to do some things like 180. Let's understand this. This is the start of it, is to know these numbers. 180 is half a circle. 360 is a full circle. 540 is 100 or is 180 more, and that's so this is a half. This is one of a circle. This is 3/2 a circle, okay? And then what do we have next? We have 720. If we add 180 to that, we have 900. Then we have 1080. And then after that, what do we have? We got 180 more than that. We really don't get much past 1080. Why is that? You know why? Because all I do is I watch snowboarding. So when I want to know about trigonometry, I want to go watch the Olympics, or I want to watch these snowboarders that go up these half pipes and all things like that. So anybody that knows snowboarding, or if you know some of the people that do skateboarding and stuff like that, they'll know what a 720 is. That's two full rotations facing the same way down the hill. And if somebody does a 900 in snowboarding, that means they've done 2.5 rotations, and when they finish, if they started facing down the hill, then when they finish in the pipe, they're finished going up the hill. So if you want to know trigonometry at the beginning with all these numbers, you got to just remember, we got to memorize that little table there, because we're going to be talking about 180, 360, 540, 720, 900, and 1080 all the time in trigonometry. And when we learn those numbers and we know how to use them, it'll make things fun, quick, easy, and just go watch snowboarding and be doing okay there. We're going to pick this up on the next video, so join me for that one.